Hey everyone, welcome to the Skill Link podcast, where we get together with cool competitive players, content creators, and everyone in between who is in the Pokemon community and makes it so incredible. Our guest today has his competitive roots in Gen 4 and Gen 5. He has a great passion for music, sports, and is getting a master's degree in computer science. He's found a love for ADV and Draft League, and he is the current champion of the Emerald Open Tournament. It's our friend, Lambo. Welcome, my friend.
What the heck is pooping? Thank you for having me on the podcast.
Love it, man. So good.
I love it.
Always got to come in strong with the what the heck is pooping intro.
That's so good. I gotta pick that up now. I gotta start saying that. I wonder what my wife would say if I just hop off this and be like, hey, what's a pooping right now?
What the heck is pooping, babe?
Yeah. And she'd be like, excuse me? Probably more confusion than anything, but I'll get her used to it. So
yeah.
But no, yeah. Seriously, thanks for hopping on. We were just chatting a little bit before we hit record here, and it means a lot to talk to someone who has an awesome history with Pokemon, awesome resume, has done some really cool stuff outside of Pokemon as well. So we're here to get to know you and just kind of chat it up for a little bit. So thanks again.
Yeah,
my pleasure.
Kind of getting into that a little bit, we mentioned right at the beginning there, and you talked to us specifically about this, is kind of a passion for music that you have. You play guitar, uke, and drums, it looks like. And I was just curious, kind of like, what's your favorite kinds of songs to play? What are your passion with that, and kind of just a little bit into the music side of things?
Yeah, so it's really like, I feel like a lot of my passions come and go depending on like what I'm inspired by. And a lot of times what has inspired me in the past is, if there are any guitar players out there who really like video game music, I use I think it's called like gametabs.net.
Okay.
And so they have,
I know what you're talking about.
They got all the Pokemon music. They got lots of good soundtracks like from Zelda. And a lot of times I'll just go on to old games, Banjo-Kazooie, whatever it may be, and I play a lot of that. I've been practicing trying to learn to sing, but I'm a very, very average singer, so I'll try to nice. I like playing with other people to have them sing for me.
There you go.
That's
awesome, man. No, that's the I mentioned this to you previously, but I got my guitar right there, and I play piano as well. So when you said that, I was like, dude, that's awesome. And it's cool because the video games that I grew up playing, Pokemon, Legend of Zelda, Mario games, I mean, there's just some killer tracks out there, really good music, and outside of like actual bands and artists that I listen to, I'd say a big part of my music upbringing and music background was just like cool, like really beautiful video game music. So it was cool to hear that.
Yeah.
Big question for you then.
Yeah.
What generation of Pokemon do you think has the best music? And there is a right answer.
There is a right. I'll say this. I think it ties in with the reason why it is my favorite generation, and it's Gen 3. I hope you agree.
The horn guy.
It's up there. It's up there for me. There's some really good ones though. I mean, I think Gen 5 is up there.
Still not the right answer. Still not the right
answer. Okay, let's hear what you got.
I'm gonna say Gen 4.
Two?
Oh, it's Gen 2. Gen 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gen 2. Okay. Yeah, something about like just so many bangers.
There are some bangers. Yeah.
Critique City.
Yeah.
Some of the root music for like the Lake of Rage, Blackthorn City. And then even when you when you get into Kanto and they do the reboots of the Kanto music, like they redid Lavender Town so beautifully, they redid the Viridian Forest so beautifully. It's like
there's some really nice. I'll say, and I think out of the starting towns, I think it's either New Bark Town's theme or Little Root's theme for my favorite opening or hometown theme. Like New Bark, we'll run that on the outro of our podcast sometimes, and it's a really, as far as like even like battle music goes, obviously the Lance Red theme is iconic, but then you have the remix for the gym lead, like the Kanto gym leaders, but from Gold, Silver, Crystal, that I think is a real I mean that's a really good answer. I might have to go back and listen more.
I think underrated battle theme as well is the legendary dogs from GSC.
That's super true.
Very good one.
That's super true. I found a channel the other day that they kind of like play around and like they just make music, like make the Pokemon music, like extended OSTs, if that makes sense. And they were doing the Mewtwo theme in like it was just the red, blue, yellow. But I was also like, man, the Game Boy hits in a different way, and so like it just like hits some tones, and it can bring in like the mood of a battle so well.
Yeah, and the lack of technology and constraints are often what breeds such a beautiful creativity, and you'll see this in all art forms. And so one of my favorite formats of all time was actually VGC 2014, which is the year that Sejun Park won with the Pachirisu. Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody knows the Pachirisu, but like all throughout the format, it just felt like because it was the restricted Kalos decks, people created like such interesting and unique teams, and there was a really cool dynamic. It wasn't all chalk. It was a cool dynamic between Mega Kangaskhan, Mega Zard Y, and like Mega Mawile were like the three main megas. But that kind of like when you have a metagame that's set up like that, you have somebody that can bring like a Mega Gyarados and kind of counter all three and kind of catch the whole field.
Yeah.
So like, yeah. And they did the same thing with the video game music, where they actually went back and studied like Beethoven and Bach, and they're like, hey man, these people are making intricate sounds with like fugues, where they only have 4 channels to make music, and just incredibly creative, incredibly beautiful.
Yeah,
making sure every note counts like that. That's great. I love it. And kind of going like so on this same thread of like, you know, music and things like that. You mentioned to us that you have a lo-fi music channel. I was just kind of curious, like, so what got you into kind of like, I mean, you mentioned to us kind of some of the reasoning, but kind of curious, like, how'd you pick up those skills? What kind of got you into that kind of skill set as well, and what you love about making music like in that way as well?
Yeah, so I started. But the first instrument I played was like drums in like elementary school, and I kind of just progressed through that. I picked up guitar and started getting a little more interested in music theory around like later in high school. And then sometime in college, I got really into lo-fi.
Ooh.
And I really like video game music was probably my favorite genre, along with lo-fi. And then I tried to find video game music lo-fi, and for some reason at the time there just wasn't a lot of it. And so I was like, well, I want there to be this thing, so I will just make it myself. Like, I will go figure this out. I'll download FL Studio and I'll just do it myself so I can listen to my own music.
I love it. That's so cool. That's
awesome.
So good.
We'll probably be having one of your tracks playing the intro, the Mirror B theme. And, you know, speaking of Mirror B, along with that, your Discord logo, there you go. Your Discord logo is the man himself. So now shifting towards some Pokemon stuff. I mean, yeah, dude, what do you love about the character? Any other characters like in general that you like, you know, love about Pokemon? Obviously, he's a pretty iconic one, but
yeah, he like in a weird way. Even if there's no dance, or even if there's no music, I've just got music playing in my head all the time. So out in public, I'll just be like constantly dancing. I'll be like Millie rocking like all the time. I'm like out here, and like
I love it.
Mirror B like moonwalks into battle. He got these dancing Ludicolas. It's just like such a vibe.
He's got like scarf and everything, dude.
Yes,
yeah,
he is like my persona, and like the bright yellow colors and just like constantly grooving. It's like, that's my kind of guy.
Yeah. Well, like it's like I know he's he's part of that bad organization, but you can't like he's just one of those guys that are like, are you a bad guy? Like, are you just here for a good time? Like it's just like he's just here to make some noise, make sure everybody knows he's there. I love it.
He truly is. Like on the in the second game in XD, he's like not even with him anymore. He's just like
he's a wanderer. He's classified as a wanderer.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Like Mirror B is just there to vibe and play some mons, dude, and that's definitely
exactly.
I'll say
that's what I'd be doing.
And so in our draft league that we do casually with some friends, we all have our mascots for our teams and everything, and mine is Ludicolo, and of course that's his guy, man, the dancer, the rain duck himself. So
yeah,
you know, I'm a big fan of him as well. So I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
In a previous interview we had, we mentioned that there were rumors with the new DLC coming out that like for a while, and like for just a second on Twitter, that there was a rumor going around that Ludicolo got the ability dancer. I was like, Such a missed opportunity, Nintendo.
Oh, man.
Such a missed opportunity.
Especially because they did Shift Tree, and they give Shift Tree whatever the like new wind ability
Wind
is.
Rider, yeah, they gave Wind Rider.
Ludicolo and Shift Tree are supposed to be the two like alternate
They're
version
counterparts,
exclusives.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you not give Ludicolo Dancer when you do?
It's a missed opportunity, dude. I was saying before that rumor got squashed, if that got to my ears before it was squashed, I'll tell you my hopes and my dreams would have gone through the ceiling, man. That's
I was
my
thinking
guy. I love Ludicolo.
It's not even like it's a good ability on him though.
I know, it's so funny. Yeah, it doesn't get any dancer moves, but it's just funny. It's like, come on, it's right there. But it's funny.
It could have been really interesting. I had the thought today that like Magmortar should get Quick Draw or something like that. That'd be cool.
Yeah, Quick Draw is an ability that's just like so frustrating.
Yeah.
It's like it either pops or it doesn't. And I've seen, I saw somebody run a belly drum, Quick Claw, Slowbro Galar, and like reverse 6-0 someone. And it was like one of the funniest replays I've ever seen. It was like so uncompetitive, and I kind of loved it.
You needed that.
I kind of hated it, and
chaos.
I kind of loved it.
That's incredible, man. Oh my gosh.
Oh man. So kind of speaking of games, speaking of new things that you're picking up as well. We were talking about you were saying that you were getting into chess recently. I was just kind of curious what draws you to it, kind of like what insights competitively or just kind of like from like that game have you picked up and that you feel like you can like apply to other things in your life, like other competitive spheres. And then have you ever heard of Pokemon chess?
Well, I'll start out by saying no, I've never heard of Pokemon chess, but that sounds very interesting.
I'll have to tell you about it a little bit.
I was about to say no, I want to try that out. But I've always been an overly competitive person. I grew up playing sports 4 seasons of the year, like different sports all the time. And something that I do is like I also work out a lot and whatnot, and I would get stress injuries and just overwork myself. And I would still have a competitive drive to do more. And so that's kind of where I started picking up competitive gaming. So I play, obviously, competitive Pokemon. I dabbled in competitive Melee for, like, while I was throughout college. And then chess is just the newest addition to the list of something that's a little bit less random. I still get tilted in chess all the time, but like you don't get pissed off. It's not like, damn, his queen froze me. It's like I knew his queen was gonna do that. Like that's the rules of the game. It's not like a 10% chance to, jump over my pawns and kill me.
Right.
I love it. So Pokemon chess, just so you know, I haven't played it yet either, but I wanted to get into it eventually. But so it's basically from what I understand, it's made by I think his name is Little Z on YouTube. And basically from what I understand is like basically you assign, I don't know if it's a specific Pokemon or if you assign like a type to each of your pieces. And then from there, like the types work like they would in the game, right? Except there's like I think like there's some differences slightly, but so like if a fire piece attacks a water piece, I think the fire piece loses, and then the grass piece, like if it attack a grass piece, it could take that piece, right? So I have to get into it too, but I was just like, you're getting into chess, and maybe you also need to get obsessed with Pokemon chess too.
So it's funny that you mentioned Little Z. Back when Little Z was like really, really small, like the first videos that he like really started posting were like how to 6-0 someone in Pokemon. And I ended up posting like when I was in high school, I made a Pokemon YouTube channel, which is like now defunct. It's like out there in the internet somewhere. But I made a video similar to Little Z's, and he actually found it and subscribed to me. And he used to comment on all my videos.
And no way.
That's so cool.
That's so cool.
And then like a
That's
year
so
later,
funny.
I looked at his channel and I was like, what the heck? This guy's like huge now.
He's
like,
huge, yeah.
I was like,
That's funny.
yeah, so that's like one of my claims to fame is that like a YouTuber, I don't know, 1 million subscribers now or whatever he has, like just tons, used to follow me.
That's so cool.
Funny. Commented
That's
on your
awesome.
stuff. No, that's a flex right there. No, yeah, I think it got big. Alpharad a few months ago posted a video of him playing Pokemon chess, and I think it's gotten really popular because
I think there was a tournament or something that they did with a bunch of like those kind of that kind of
big
group.
content creators. Yeah,
that's where I first saw it too.
It's cool.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is though, like if I tried to enter a tournament like that, like I'm still just so bad at regular chess. I'm like an 1,000 elo player, which is like very average, but you know,
Yeah.
like any sort of tournament I entered, people would kick my butt.
There you
One
go.
thing that I do find interesting about Pokemon chess is that I don't think check exists in that one. So like you can I don't know exactly how like because I saw one player like thought that check existed, and so he thought that he had to move his king at that point, but you don't have to, and so it kind of changes the game a little bit with that different the rule. But anyway, that was just one difference that I did know.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
interesting.
gonna start studying like the theory of Pokemon chess.
Uh-huh.
It's gonna
There you go.
Soon, Pokemon chess will be a very dignified gentleman's game.
I was about to say, there's too many chess players that already like know way too much. You got like Magnus Carlsen and Hikaru Nakamura. I can play 30 moves of theory starting out the freaking chess game. It's like I'm gonna be that for Pokemon chess. I'm gonna come out here. I'm gonna know the first 30 moves. You make one move out of turn. I'm like, you just blew up your whole board and you don't even know it. Don't make that move. Trust me.
It's so funny.
You want to move your Caterpie.
Yeah.
So
I'm a Butterfree main man.
I always play
Butterfree. I love it, man. So talking more of like your competitive Pokemon roots and escapades, I know you go back to Gen 4 and Gen 5 as kind of your roots in that. So like, what brought you on to the competitive Pokemon scene? And what did you love about it at the time as you were kind of getting started and all that?
The first thing that turned me... So I always played... My first game was Blue. My second game was Crystal. I never stopped playing Pokemon. I remember my family was on vacation in like Florida or something, and I was like watching a YouTube video, and I found somebody who did like I don't even know what it was. It was like a Magikarp sweep, where they like put something to sleep and like got to +6 in every stat with like Smeargle and like passed it to like Magikarp or Caterpie or something, and swept the opponent. And then I saw like the Maryland versus...
I was gonna bring that up, the Maryland versus Untouchable.
Yeah, I saw the Maryland versus Untouchable video, and like after those videos,
iconic.
I was like,
that's iconic.
So I was like, you know, like I want to play competitive Mons, and for a while I didn't know about like Showdown or anything. So it was like very end of Gen 4, beginning of Gen 5 that I really found out that like Showdown was a thing, and that's when I started, and I was horrible for many years. It wasn't until like I used to be the guy on ladder. I mean, I was a twerp, and I'll admit it. I used to be the guy on ladder that like if you brought anything that was good, I would be mad, and I'd be like, "You're just a try hard man. Like I'm trying to win out here and OU with Wheezing, and you're really gonna bring like a Landorus like." Yeah, and it wasn't until like I got over that that mentality. Probably later in high school and early college that I actually became decent at the game.
I love it so much. Josh and I, when we first met, when we worked together, when the store, because we worked at a suit store, we sold suits. And when it was dead in the store, we'd hop on the computer and we'd play random matches on Showdown, and we would put like Darth Vader and Sidious quotes and like Thanos quotes in the chat, and just like mess with the person we were battling.
You Oko something and just like snaps in chat.
There you go.
Your world just disappeared, baby.
Half your team is gone now. What do you think of that? Stuff like that, dude.
I am so inevitable.
Yep, exactly.
So I love it. And so I kind of from that evolution of getting into the game, getting the skills to succeed and things like that, and eventually coming into the Emerald Open tournament. What's interesting is that the season. So you've competed in a few seasons. The season that you specifically won, where you had like about 70 more competitors or something like that than was the previous year. I think season 2 was 124, and this most latest season was like 192 or something like that. One thing we wanted to kind of ask you is, like, how do you feel like that affected the competition as you kind of got into the Emerald Opens area? How did you get into draft and ADV and kind of that kind of talk?
Yeah. Okay. So where to start? I started in draft in Gen 7, and I like I would say I was a Gen 7 draft main. I also played a lot of Gen 7 OU. And I would say somewhere around the time. I don't know when it started, but I also became a Gen 3 OU player.
Yeah.
And so those were kind of like my three main tiers were like Gen 7 OU, draft, Gen 3 OU. As the years went on, like I didn't really play Gen 8 OU much. I played a little bit at the very beginning, but I was like, so I ended up just becoming like draft main and Gen 3 OU main. And I would also like the classic format where you play a best of 5 with generations 1 through 5.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like a classic player, draft and classic, and that's because a lot of times I don't have tons of time to put into Mons, and trying to keep up with the changing meta in like the newer generations just was not on the table for me. Like I did not have that kind of time anymore. So then one of my friends from US South, because I was in like Ruins of Alpha Olympics, Jeroni Puff, if you know him online.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he and maybe some other folks started the Emerald Open. And I was like, Gen 3 OU plus draft, like
Exactly
that's my bread and butter. So like how many people main 2 tiers and like two very different tiers? Like I just felt like I had a real competitive advantage in that because I was Gen 3 and draft player. And so I've played in Emerald Open 1 and 3. I skipped 2 because time constraints.
Right.
But in Emerald Open 1, I had this broken team that like you wouldn't be able to draft anymore because it would cost you 9 more points than you could actually get.
Yeah.
And I came in 16th place. I had I lost in top 16. I had a bad matchup, and then I also think like my Metagross got crit by a Fire Blast like turn 1.
Ooh.
Yeah,
and he was like instrumental to trying to break through the bad matchup. And after that, it was just like,
okay, well, that's it.
But this time around, it went really, really well. And then like by finals, I was just like, you know what? Let's bring some heat. I brought like a choice band Gengar, and like everything worked out. Yeah, it was really cool, and I won, and I was stoked.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
that's super cool.
Great experience.
And so, kind of in comparison from that first experience to the most current season, obviously you're seeing kind of that ramp up of the ADV love of the community itself, kind of getting bigger as you know, and as it's always kind of been there, but people are really getting into it again, really making it kind of flourish. Like how do you feel about that? Like what kind of fun things or what insights do you have on that kind of the ADV flourishing scene right now?
Yeah, so Jimothy Gaming, I'm sure you guys know, started like the ADV revival. I'm really upset I didn't sign up for it because time constraints. I'm not in any leagues right now. But just masters classes and whatnot. I wish I would have signed up for it. But I'm really excited to see the love for the game. It's getting hot. People are starting to get into it, and there's a lot of innovation. I've seen a lot of really cool sets and like innovation with like versatile mons like Jirachi. I actually now that I have a little bit more time, it's like already a round or 2 in. I actually asked if I could do commentary for the games.
Oh, nice.
And I was turned down.
Oh no!
They said,
shoot.
I was like, so I've thought about doing commentary on my own channel for some of the games. But hey, Gold Mason, if you're watching, hey, I'm still down to do some commentary for you guys. I know I signed up late to do it, but I'd be happy to do it.
Shout out for Lambo. Nice. Bring it on Lambo.
Yeah, we'll vouch for him, man. We'll vouch
Free
for him.
Lambo. Let me commentary.
He will wear a Mirror Bee costume. He will wear a Mirror Bee costume.
I will go buy an afro and do it. Yes.
Spray paint half of it red.
Yeah.
And then white. That'd be great.
I'll just get a perm and I'll dye half of my own hair red and have it
better. Oh man,
I love
this
it.
This is how bad I want it. This is how bad I want it.
This is how far I'll go, man.
It's just kind of cool. Like one of the things that because I've kind of just been introduced to this recently, and like, I mean, I've always loved Gen 3 as well, and so it's kind of fun to get to see this just kind of like everyone that we've all loved Gen 3, and we're all kind of just like, we need justice for Gen 3 as well. It's just like, let's get it, to have that community seed,
Yes.
that competitive like seriousness.
Louder for the sisters in the back. Louder for the sisters in the back.
Gen 3.
And what's cool is I think, like you said, like the innovativeness is really cool, because like with the beginnings, origins of Gen 3 in 2003, obviously the competitive scene wasn't quite built out the same way as it is today, and so it's really cool to see how, even though it's almost 10, 15 years now, or it's older than that, so it's
20.
it's 20 years now,
20
right?
years, yeah.
And so it's just like really cool to see that it can still be built upon, and I love it. I think it's super cool.
Something that turns people off from trying Gen 3 in the first place is it feels very different. The new, or the oldest gen that feels kind of normal to people is Gen 4, because it has the physical special split. Yeah. So when they go back to Gen 3, they're like, nah, it's too scary, and also there's Doug Trio and you can trap, and it's weird and I don't understand it. But it's so cool because you get these, you can run cool mix sets, and it's like such a developed metagame that you have like everything has an offensive and defensive purpose. You got these Gengars that are running like mostly bulk EVs, and you're like, what the heck? Why is Gengar being used as a defensive mon? It's just like so many cool intricacies. And if you haven't tried it, even if you're not used to not having the physical special split, definitely worth it. It's not as weird as you think it might be. And you can definitely run mixed sets as well.
I think once you look at it, it's where it might seem overwhelming, you think it might be easier to process just because there aren't as many held items compared to now, where they're adding stuff every generation. Obviously the same thing with abilities. So once you kind of get into it, I think you can really kind of see how cool and unique it is, for sure. Because we did talk to Jared, we talked to Jeroni Puff about a week ago, and he was talking about the same sort of thing where now we can go back on years and years of data and look at how things have changed and what people have done, and it's just cool to see where it's at, and it's kind of cool to see this boom the last little bit or so around this specific niche. So
you guys interviewed Jaren? I gotta go watch that episode, man.
We literally just got up today. As of whoever, when you're listening, the date that this that we're talking to Lambo right now, we uploaded our interview with Jaren.
I'm preceded by giants. I love.
I
love
he's
a great guy.
He called you out too, and he has good praise for you in there. So you'll hear it in there when you listen to that.
Hey, I like. It
was an awesome chat. Yeah, dude, he enlightened us for like an hour and 10 minutes. It was great. So
real quick, I had a thought, kind of, as we're talking about this, it kind of goes back to the music, like we were talking about in the first half of this, right? Where with the constrained pieces, that's kind of where Gen 3 really shines, is that, or an ADV really shines, is like, just like that music, we only have 4 tracks to work with per se, right? But you can make some real beauty and like some really like intriguing competitive scenes on that. And like, and that's not going to go away. Like, that's just going to continue to flourish,
Yeah. And something that like bothers me so much about, I don't really play new gen draft much. Like I think draft peaked in like I think Gen 7 was probably like Gen 6, Gen 7. I think Gen 8 was still good. Gen 9, it's just like every mon feels so min-maxed now. Like you got Reggie Alecki, and they're like, it's faster than ever. It hits electric moves harder than ever, but a ground type blocks it unless it's Terra. And Reggie Drago, it has freaking dragon explosion, dragon volcano, and Dragapult, it's like faster and stronger, and Spectrier, it's like the strongest ghost type ever, but like a single normal type. It's just it feels so min-maxed, and it feels so matchup based. And to me, some of the older gens just feel more balanced, where it's less matchup based, and you can play around your opponent more. It feels more like a more creativity and skill in a way, because you have less to work with.
Yeah. That definitely is encouraged, because now everything feels super optimized, and you're kind of forced to use certain sets or certain mons, or you simply can't compete. And granted, every generation, everything has a meta, but it does feel the further you go back, you do have some more flexibility and creativity with what you can do. Because if you try and do that now, just with the way everything is min-maxed, power creep, that if you don't kind of put yourself in a certain box that you just simply can't, you just won't stack up. And it's matchup based. I mean, you can even have a solid team, but I mean, you can have like the perfect foil to what you have, and it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. So I think that's a good point. That's a good point.
And not to say that it's like, I'm not saying it's not skill based anymore.
No,
it's just,
not at all.
Yeah. So I'm not trying to like dog on people that like, are like, Gen 9, you know, like
there's still some fun stuff with Gen 9s for sure.
Yeah.
So
it's just not my personal cup of tea anymore. Like I personally think, 3 through 7 are some of the best generations.
That's cool.
Cut 5 out of there. I think 5's kind of weird, but it's still fun.
Perma weather, how sleep operated.
Yeah, 5 is like you always have some people that are like, hey, let's ban things that are broken, and then other people that are like, no, the broken things are what's fun. And a lot of generations, I feel like the methodology has been, let's try to make a more balanced metagame. Let's try to ban what's broken. It feels like everything except Gen 5. Gen 5, it feels like broken balance is broken, baby. That's the Wild West. If you want to play with some crappy stuff out there, man, go get your Latios and Keldeo and Permanent Rain. And
Keldeo, dude.
Oh, man. Gen 5 is crazy. Gen 5 players are a different breed.
Well, and I'm not gonna lie, the legendaries of that generation, like Kieran Black and White, we've had like Gen 5, or even just like in our drafts where they're in there, and I still have nightmares over Kieran Black and White just because their power creep is insane. Like,
you guys do like Uber's draft in your league or something?
Yeah, so we do it with so for your team comp, you get to draft 2 Ubers, 3 OUs, 3 UUs, and then 4 RUNU for a roster of 10. And then for any given match, for your 6-man roster, you have to have 1 Uber, 2 OU, 2 UU, and then 1 RU for your final slot. So when you're drafting, you can prioritize, take a Uber with your first pick, or, if you're doing Snake and you go back to back, you can just try and grab the 2 best OUs on the board and kind of go from there. So
okay, so you guys don't even separate it based on like OU by draft standards. It's like OU by Smogon standards.
Yeah,
kind of stuff.
It was more of a casual. When we first went into it, it was kind of a casual thing, and we were first kind of getting into draft league. So we actually have been learning about like the points and the draft standards and things like that through these conversations.
It's a lot more honed now. Yeah, it's a lot more honed now. We've been doing it for. I mean, we're currently in This is this season 7 now, Logan?
Season 7 technically, but like unofficially.
That's right. Yeah, because we had a season 0 that we abandoned halfway through at the very beginning, but but yeah, it's changed every time. And funny you mentioned Gen 5, because this was back. This is season 3, I want to say. It was that was the year that I played my brother, who's in our league too, as in the finals, and I had Groudon and Kyogre were my 2 Ubers, so I was just weather spam the whole year, and it was tough to prep because I could bring a Sun team or a Rain team, and after I was like, yeah, that was kind of lame, but is what it is.
So, did you guys leave like Ditto in the tier that like? Did you leave Ditto as an NU mon? Because that feels like if you're playing in an Ubers league,
right?
If you're playing in an Ubers league, you can pick an NU Ditto and then just like that feels like such arbitrage, I
think the first season what we did is because we've always kind of, because we haven't had like a ton of guys, we've also kind of tried to restrain, like not restrain, but limit the amount of Pokemon that were in the draft pools, if that makes sense. So we used Smogon as kind of as a basis, but for the first season, as we were just kind of getting it going, we call it the council, the council, the mods of the league and stuff like that. We all kind of got together and like decided maybe because we only had like 5 guys that first season, and it was kind of a casual. We were all kind of get into it, and so we did like maybe 20 max Ubers that you could choose from, and so we limited it. So some of the ones that were part of like the necessarily like a tier. So for example, Ditto, I don't think it made it in that first season just because we didn't choose it. We kind of chose and tried to keep like maybe like for example try to get a good balance of typing and a good balance of power. To the best of our knowledge at the time. Recently, in recent seasons, we've kind of stayed with the similar mindset. But like Ubers, there isn't very many to begin with. Like like, I mean, with our 15 to 20 guys now, we kind of have to keep them all. But like as we get lower tiers, we do kind of limit it off eventually, because there's a lot of Pokemon.
Yeah. I feel like the starting seasons for almost any league are rough. I run a draft team tour, and like our season 1 was a wreck. Our season 2, I mean, it was fun, but it was definitely a wreck. And like we're on like season 5 now, and it continues to get better every season, and then open it up to more people, and
that's
it's imperfect. Yeah, it's a process.
It's trial and error big time. Yeah, we're at first, we brought on more people each season. The spreadsheet looks cleaner. Everything makes more sense. The playoff format gets better. How we break things up. Yeah. So I mean, it's a process. That's what makes it fun. I mean, like you said, even at the beginning where it's kind of a cluster, it's still fun. But it gets better as you move on and on. So, but we wanted to ask you, specifically about your about Emerald Open 3, and we were looking at your team, of course, the team that was that won. And want to talk more about like team analysis, strategies that you had, what you were looking at going into that season, and as you kind of put things together, and of course how things progressed throughout the course of the year. So, Logan, you want to start this off?
So starting off, we saw that you got Zapdos, and Zapdos has always had kind of clear potential within ADV, and just in a lot of formats, Zapdos is just really good. But specifically, in Emerald Open, this is the first time that Zapdos has been able to make it to the top, to the championship. And we were just kind of curious. What did you do to kind of let it burst to the barriers that were in front of it, and kind of like use it in a way to be able to make it to the top?
Yeah, I feel like when I look at teams, a lot of teams get pretty ruined by a mixed Zapdos. This is going back to like what I was saying, there's physical special split, or there's not the physical special split. So you don't have something like Hurricane or whatnot. But like so many times you can run a Drill Peck, Hidden Power Fighting, Thunderbolt Zapdos that like you can't really switch Blissey in because you have this strong Hidden Power Fighting that hits on the physical side because it's a fighting move.
Yeah.
And then like Thunderbolt, even without a lot of investment, just smacks so hard because you got 125 special attack.
Right.
Yeah. So I feel like the mix sets are usually what I like, but occasionally you'll run across teams where you don't necessarily need to run like Drill Peck or Hidden Power Fighting. So sometimes Thunderbolt, Hidden Power Water. I feel like I ran a lot of Hidden Power Water this season. Definitely matchup based. And when you only have 8 Mons, it can sometimes be hard to get a team that's solid against a Zapdos unless you have something like Lantern. But even then you can, Toxic and Protect.
Yeah.
Stall it out, yeah.
And was that Hidden Power Water for mostly like rock and like rock protection and stuff like that?
Yeah, like it seemed like so many. I feel like it was in pools that I kept playing teams that were weak to like Thunderbolt plus Hidden Power Water, and it was usually like they would have like their only electric resist would be like a ground type. A lot of times people wouldn't have a grass type unless they had something like a Celebi.
Right.
And they don't always have like a really fat normal that can handle like even like a Gengar Thunderbolt or something. So Thunderbolt, Hidden Power Water ended up just being really strong versus a lot of teams.
That's awesome. That's cool.
That makes sense. I guess there you go, Logan.
Oh, I was just gonna say it's interesting because like I think Bolt Beam kind of shenanigans, but it's interesting to see like the Thunderbolt and Water also kind of seeing that coverage as well. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, the beam is like usually it hits ice and ground, but obviously if you have something like a rock ground type, ice is only singles super effective. Water would be double. But like since a lot of people weren't drafting grass types, there's not like a ton of grass types to pick from, especially it's got a lot of weaknesses and you only have 8 Mons and whatnot. So I played a lot of Celebes, but if I wasn't playing a Celebi, a lot of times Hidden Power Water would work just as good, if not better, than Hidden Power Ice.
Yeah,
that's cool.
That's cool. And, kind of speaking on that, you have 3 ground immunities because you have 2 Levitators with Flygon and Gengar. And then, of course, you got the Zapdos. So, speaking more on that, I'm sure that was intentional just because Earthquake is rampant all the way throughout the meta, whether that's a stab Earthquake or just coverage with Earthquake. I know having that immunity is huge, and it makes for a really good defensive core because you also had Registeel. Of course, Reggie's going to be weak to fighting ground. You had Tauros, who's also weak to fighting. So, kind of that backed up by that trio of flyers and, of course, a Ghost and Gengar. It seemed like you had a really nice core that complemented itself as far as being able to pivot.
Yeah, so just for people who can't see the team right now, it's Zapdos, Gengar, Flagon, Registeel, Glalie, Slowbro, Tauros, and then the last was Parasect. I would throw away Parasect and get something different. But the overall idea for the team when I was first building, obviously all three are ground immunities.
Mm-hmm.
The bigger thing I was planning on is, if you notice, I don't have any Rapid Spin on my team. This is the first team to win an Emerald Open without Rapid Spin. And the idea was to build a Superman team. And if you're not familiar with Superman, probably because you play mainly new gens, Gen 3 doesn't have Stealth Rock, but it does have Spike. Mm-hmm. So if you can float above the spikes, then you don't necessarily need to Rapid Spin them away. My team ended up being a little more grounded than I originally planned for because some of my defensive backbone pieces, Registeel and Slowbro, are both bothered by grounded, spikes.
Yeah.
So that didn't work quite as I intended. It wasn't quite as Superman as I originally planned. But it still ended up working out pretty well, and it wasn't overly weak to spikes.
Right.
And so I tried to get away without a spinner on my team.
I'm just curious, who are you looking at? Because like you said, it was more grounded than you were wanting. Were there other Pokemon that you were kind of looking at in space of Registeel or Slowbro, or it just kind of you got those mons, you had your 3 core, and you were like, I'm going to go this route as well? I'm just curious.
Yeah, it was months ago, so I'm trying to remember specifically. I don't know that I necessarily had something else that I was like. I definitely was sniped a couple times throughout the draft, but it was so long ago that I don't remember what specifically I was looking at. But it was more so just hey, look at all these things that are floating above spikes. I just want to build a team that's pretty good against the spikes.
Cool, that's awesome.
And then once I was building it out, I was like, it's not quite as spike immune as I thought, but still pretty good. You got three important mons.
When you were still able to pull it off too. The idea that you still able to take it to the top. So that's awesome.
Right. I did have to play more offensively and aggressive against spikers typically. To try to deny them. And I ended up playing a lot of Skarmories, and Flagon just duds into Skarms. So in pools, I actually ended up bringing Swagger Flagon, if I remember correctly, because I'm gonna swagger this Skarm when it switches in, just because I really want to free switch and I don't want to let the spikes get up.
That's so funny. That's cool. And even if you did end up being more grounded, like I was saying, that just makes for a really nice defensive core, because the Registeel and Tauros are going to complement the 2 Levitators and Zapdos and vice versa. So I really like that. We watched a couple of replays as well. I really like the offensive pro. I did see. I don't know if you always ran choice band on Gengar, but I watched the match where it was banded, and you sludge bomb, and I can't remember who you hit with it.
Ampharos, I think Ampharos or Magmar. Yeah, it did
70-something%, and I was that's probably choice, isn't it?
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure this was the finals game, and it's
okay.
Probably no one has ever brought banded Gengar. It's very rare. They probably just plan to explode. But I was this guy's team has almost no poison resists, almost no ghost resists, and I was
just nuke it with sludge bomb, dude.
I'm even if I lose, I still get some money. I'll just throw a choice band on.
And then I'm the guy who brought the banded Gengar, so it's it's a win-win.
Right, exactly.
That's so funny.
And I knew he was going to bring specially defensive Ampharos, which is actually really hard for Zapdos plus Gengar to break. Yeah, because it's a good special wall. It's got good typing, and Gengar doesn't have any stab moves to hit it with. He doesn't have any stab moves.
Yeah.
But I did.
Yeah.
And I was if it's Spadef, then banded Gengar will 2-hit KO with Sludge Bomb. it like does so much.
Yeah,
That's
see,
so
that was so
cool.
cool. I was watching that, and of course, like I wasn't like thinking of the physical special split in the front of my head, and you did that much damage, and I'm like, wait, is that thing choiced? And I was like, oh my gosh, it's choice band Gengar. It was cool. So I didn't
That's
like look at your
epic.
build or anything beforehand. So, speaking more as to like the rest of your team, obviously, I mean, tell us more about maybe who your favorite team member was, like who you enjoyed using the most. Obviously, you also had an Intimidator in Tauros. I mean, how imperative was Tauros to checking some physical threats out there? Tell us more about those.
I'll first tell you, but the number one underperformer was Flygon.
Interesting.
Flygon, it doesn't help check like the electrics as well as you'd want it to because of the 4 times
Interesting.
weakness to ice, and like it feels like a wet noodle a lot of times. Like
Yeah.
there are certain matchups where you can bring it in and it'll do well, especially if you can like afford to put a choice band on it. But so
Mhm.
many times you just play a Skarmory and it's like, what the heck's my Flygon gonna do? Like, am I gonna bring
Nothing.
like Sunny Day Flamethrower Flygon or something?
Yeah.
Just for
And
that.
yeah,
And take up 2 move slots for that.
yeah. It wasn't in this league, but I did have a Flygon on a different team once where I was able to like trap a Milotic that I knew wouldn't be Ice Beam with like Sand Tomb plus Screech, which was really
Oh,
cool.
Oh,
cool.
interesting.
But like it just feels like you need to be tricky with Flygon in order to make it work, and a lot of times it just I didn't have the matchups for it, and or it's just not
Yeah.
as good as you would hope it to be.
Did you ever run it defensively at all? Like, I know you could do like protect toxic stuff on it with leftovers and just like impish nature or whatever. But I mean, you had a Slowbro too, so I don't know how much
Yeah.
wiggle room you had with the Flygon.
So I think I did. Like I feel like a lot of times it probably was pretty HP and speed invested.
Right.
If you're newer to Mons and whatnot as well, for people who are watching,
Mhm.
sometimes for a wall, speed is your best stat. Because if you're trying to check
Outspeed
something, you
'em.
can outspeed it and kill it, or like if you're a Gengar and you can outspeed it and Will-O-Wisp it or something.
That's your best defense.
Yeah. So
That's cool.
a lot of times I like fast walls because they feel a little bit less passive than like a really fat slow one.
Mhm.
So yeah, I can't remember specifically, but I probably ran some fast bulky Flygons.
Okay.
Uh,
Interesting.
I'll tell you the biggest overperformer for the points, definitely Glalie. I brought Glalie
Really?
in every matchup. It always gets the spikes up. So many times, like I brought Nevermelt Ice Beam, and that would just always do so much damage. It crit a lot of Celebes this season. So
Nice.
a lot of people brought Celebi and just tried to like recover stall on it, and it crit them all. And Explosion is always good too. Yeah, like
Yeah.
Glalie, significant overperformer for its point
That's so
value.
cool. I love
That's
that.
so cool.
But everything on the team, like I've had teams where if you look at like the kill death ratio of every mon, like I get all my kills with like 1 or 2 mons. But it didn't
Mhm.
feel like that with this team. Like it felt very like every mon had its matchup and every mon played an important role. Like there were times where Registeel like completely held the team together, especially against electrics like
Mhm.
Jolteon and whatnot. And then there were times when Calm Mind Slowbro was able to pull through, but there were other times where Slowbro was just a wall that needed to like Thunder Wave or throw off an attack and just switch in. Yeah, the only things that were not important to the team, one, Parasect. Parasect was underwhelming.
Yeah.
And the Flygon was good. Like in a way, it's important to the comp of the team, but it also just wasn't that good.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Like
it wasn't taking the role that you were expecting it to.
right. Like it didn't do everything I needed it to. Like Tauros, so powerful. So like the 110 speed tier is so important for ADV because there's no choice scarf.
Yeah.
So I have Tauros and Gengar, which are both that 110 speed tier, and then Zapdos and Flygon, which are 100. So it's like actually a deceptively fast team, even though I got like Registeel and Slowbro on it.
Yeah.
So the Tauros was so good at cleaning and very good at breaking. But again, that's one. Tauros is like, it's got its matchups where it's like unbelievable. Like this person doesn't have any good normal resists. Their normal resist is like Aerodactyl, which dies in like to 2 banded returns.
Yeah.
So crazy.
But then you'll have other matchups where it's like this person has a Mischievous, a Dusclops, and a Skarmory, which I'm
You
pretty
can't
sure.
do anything. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, like in my pool, like I was so excited for Tauros to like pop off, and then in my pool I played 2 Skarmories and like 4 Ghosts,
Oh
and I was
no.
like,
You're like,
but
come
then
on, dude.
in bracket Tauros just popped off, and like
I love
against
that.
some, yeah, it was mostly choice band. There was one matchup that it did really well where I was able to like substitute in front of like a Charizard or something,
Mm-hmm.
and like substitute on some switches, and it was able to really pull through in those matchups.
That's
Well,
awesome.
one of the things too, I think you got. I was looking at the points on that one, just on your team, just because I was curious about it. It looks like you got Tauros for pretty much a steal. It was like 11 points, and I was impressed. I was like, that seems like I was expecting Tauros to be about higher, like maybe 14, 15. But at 11 points, I was like, that's going up next season. I could feel that.
I'm telling you, every time I play with a team, like if I tried to draft the same team next season, it would literally be
It wouldn't
impossible
work.
to.
It's so funny.
My team from Emerald Open 1, let me just read it out to you and like read out some of the point values. So there was Metagross, which was only 17 at the time.
Oh shoot.
I got Raikou, which was 14 at the time.
I know that's a big riser. Yeah.
I think Raikou should be banned. Like I have in my team tour, we banned Raikou from ADV because I think it's unhealthy for the format. I don't think there are good checks to it.
Very interesting.
And season 1, it won like single-handedly won multiple matchups for me, and it was 14 points.
Yeah.
I also got Charizard for 12, which is now like 15.
It's higher now. Yeah.
And then the last one was Weezing for 11, which I think is now 12. So like
Dang.
between all the rises from my season 1 team, like I had basically 9 more points than I should have had.
Yeah. That's so crazy.
Insane.
Well, it's going to be cool to kind of see how like everything shifted this next season as well, from this season and everything. So I think that's probably one of the coolest points about like the Emerald Open is that you guys continue to shift the goalpost a little bit depending on the performance, and as the balance, like kind of how we're talking, the balancing is figured out with this competitive sphere, and it just makes it better. I think that's awesome to kind of see that.
Yeah, and I have opinions on it. Like Gen 3 draft, despite being such an old tier, like Gen 3 is such an old tier, Gen 3 draft is very new. There's only been like the Emerald Open's the only big tour for it right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then other people have like smaller tours, but they basically steal the tier list from the Emerald Open. So it's kind of like Emerald Open is like the place for Gen 3 draft.
Yeah.
It's still developing. It's the 3rd season. Like there's going to be tier shifts every season.
Yeah.
Another thing that I think is under tiered, like the 2 things I hate playing against the most, other than Raikou, because I think Raikou should be banned, are Sceptile and Jolteon.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know what it is, but like it seems like Sceptile with large move pool and incredible speed.
Right.
There are matchups where it can just sub-seed, and then there are matchups where it can like completely sweep a team with like four attacks. And sometimes sub-seed 2 attacks is just cooks a team on its own. So I think it's a potentially under-tiered mon. And then Jolteon is just fast and always seems to do well versus me.
Yeah, I love Jolteon, and Jolteon I feel like is always kind of sneaking in whatever generation it is. I feel like Jolteon kind of can find especially with draft, it can find a place in a team.
It's the same thing with Zapdos. Like all of the electrics, in my opinion, are just very strong in Gen 3 draft. So Zapdos, very strong, not ban-worthy. Jolteon, not ban-worthy, but very strong.
Mm-hmm.
Ampharos was cheap, and it's really good.
Yeah,
it checks a lot. It's very strong.
It's bulky.
Yeah, it's like you can run Spadef sets very, very well because its only weakness is ground, and every ground move is physical, so you can switch it in. It checks Gengar pretty well. It checks Zapdos. It checks Jolteon. Even Flaffy is like for the points. You can run a Thunder Wave, Seismic Toss, protect Flaffy.
and annoy some people.
Yeah, like it can check something like Zapdos. Okay, it's not
Yeah.
an incredible mon, but
Yeah.
it can hold some stuff together for like 2 points.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, all the electrics are very strong in my opinion.
That's cool.
That's cool. Kind of speaking of, sets and things like that, as we're talking about different Pokemon. What were your favorite sets to run on your team members? And did you feel like you were changing very much game to game, or did you feel like you kind of found their position and kind of kept with that most of the climb there?
Yeah, so I'll actually start with one from my Emerald Open 1 team.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I remember Charizard, when I had it on my team, I ended up running Dragon Dance, Hidden Power Flying quite a lot.
Wow.
And the thing that I like about like a Dragon Dance Charizard is it kind of works pseudo like a Dragon Dance Salamence, where you have like Dragon Dance, Hidden Power Flying, Earthquake. But like when you're playing something like a Skarmory or whatnot, your Flamethrower hits so much harder because you have that stab on your flamethrowers. So I actually ended up running a lot of like DD. Even if you're running special DD's at least a speed boost, and there's no choice scarf to outspeed you. So I ran a lot of DD Charizard in Emerald Open 1. This time with my newer team, there were a couple mons like Tauros. Tauros, a lot of times I ran 4 normal moves on it.
No way.
It was like Facade, Body Slam, Double Edge, Return. Like,
that's so cool.
Yeah, there were times where it was just like 4 stab moves. It felt like an in-game Tauros.
That's so fun.
I would say the most varied sets came from Registeel. Because since its stats are completely balanced and it's got such a big move pool, there were times when I ran Curse set to try to sweep. There were times when I ran Spidef, Thunder Wave, and then like Earthquake to break a sub on this mon, but Ice Punch so that this opponent's Salamence couldn't come in. A lot of times I have Explosion. There were a couple times when I didn't have Explosion. There's just like so much variance in what you can do with a Registeel.
Yeah.
That's super cool. I love it. Also kind of like in because you talked to us a little bit earlier about being really competitive. Like you always did sports. You always were in some sort of competitive sphere, and kind of how that influenced you in life. I'm kind of curious, as you've kind of like gotten into competition and from sports and Pokemon, like what is like some things that you've learned from each sphere that has helped you like in both competitive spheres, right? So Pokemon to sports, sports to Pokemon, things of that nature. I'm just kind of interested to hear like how that's influenced you in your competition.
Yeah, one of the most important things that I've learned, and this is important life skill for everyone watching, like one of the best things you can do is learn to lose. Like being humble and having humility in losses, and not getting pissed, like being able to go back to the game and go, where did I go wrong? What could I have done differently? Even if you're hacked, because I've had games where I've been frozen 3 times and I lost and I was pissed.
Yeah.
But it's like, there were still things that I can learn from this game so that when I don't get frozen 3 times in the future, I play better than if I just ignored this game and said, I was hacked so bad that there's nothing I can learn from it.
Right.
So like sometimes you're screwed. Sometimes that's just it. But like always say GG. I'm always like, if somebody beats me, I'm always down to say, like, I'm always down to be their friend and whatnot.
Absolutely.
I'm always down to like share teams and stuff with people too. I don't like when people are like really like hogging information. Like I want to see other people in the community rise up. I want to see other people get better. So yeah, definitely be a friend, be a teammate, learn to lose.
I love it.
It is just a game. Yeah.
Swallow
the pride.
That's the thing, is like don't forget to have fun. Like sure, competition is good. It's always fun to exercise that part of your brain. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's a game, and we play Pokemon. Why do we play? It's because it's fun. So and it's not fun if you're not willing to learn and to do better and to progress. Because at the end of the day, there's no point in playing a game if you're not willing to get better at the game. So, Jaren talked a little bit about this as well. He's like, yeah, try don't blame AI all the time, or don't blame bad RNG. just it's about risk management. It's about, shrinking that margin as much as possible, where if you do get screwed by something, you put yourself in the best possible position to take that head on. And, sometimes it just doesn't work out and you just move on to the next match. So.
And a lot of people are afraid of it because they don't want their pride hurt. They don't want other people to think they're bad. They're like, oh, I lost to this person. That person's not very good. And people are going to think that if other people are good at the game, they will see how you played. They will see how your opponent played, and they can see that you lost by hacks. So I kind of got to the point where it's like, I'm comfortable with my ability. If I lose by hacks, I don't feel like I need to call it out and wave the flag
compensate
and be like
for it. Yeah.
It's people can see, if I got frozen 3 times, I'm not the only person looking at the game.
Well, your opponent knows too. That's going to make them feel dumb, and it's not cool all the way around. So I think that's a really good call out.
And I'm a sorry for hackser guy. If I hack somebody else, when I when I crit your Celebi with my Ice Beam from Glalie, I say sorry.
That crit mattered, man. I know it. Don't worry. It's
sometimes the crits don't matter, and people will complain about that too. And it's that you just got to get over. It didn't even matter. That one didn't matter.
That's just math at that point.
Yeah.
Dude, that was Ice Beam on your Flygon. That didn't matter. So, it's funny. No, that's awesome, dude. So now moving on to kind of wrap up our last 2 sections. We have a rapid fire round, and then we have our shower thoughts really quick before we sign off here. For a rapid fire round, it's literally just off the dome, just fire from hip. First thing that comes to mind. We did this with Drona. We did this with Jared with Drona Puff actually. I'm gonna list 2 Pokemon in the same point tier in Emerald Open. And again, off the hip, just tell us who you'd pick. This is just in a vacuum. Don't worry about who you're playing against, what the rest of your team looks like. So I got 5 of them just to fire off at you. So first one is Celebi or Milotic.
I'm more of a Celebi guy because cool. I don't like that it's 4 times weak to Hidden Power Bug, but there's a lot of things that you can do with it. SD Pass, Calm Mind. You can also just set screens and then Baton Pass into teammates and stuff. A lot of cool stuff you can do with it.
That's cool.
And so after our talk, I think I know where you're going to go with this, but Raikou or Salamence?
Raikou.
Yeah, I know. I was saying that earlier. I'm like, I know where he's going to go now.
I'd take Raikou for 19.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Even higher up. All right. Next up, Swampert or Charizard?
Ooh, that is a very tough one and very team dependent one. I really enjoyed playing with Charizard in the first season. And both 4 times weaknesses, but I think Charizard is the 4 times weakness that I'd prefer because it's a little more offensive, a little faster, so I feel like I can play around it better.
There you go. Love it.
Cool.
But Swampert's still good. I don't hate it.
Very much. Blaziken or Breloom?
That's a really hard one because both fighting types. I like Spore, but Breloom's very one note after that. I might still take it. I think I'd take Breloom. Yeah, Spore, I think I'd still take Breloom.
Focus Punch, sub, something like that.
Yeah. I feel like Blaziken, a lot of times in drafts, you have to rely on the Endure sets, which feel a little bit gimmicky to me. Not, a lot of times they can be good, but it's too hit or miss, and Spore seems more consistent. I'm a consistency guy.
That makes sense. All right, last one. I got Miltank or Kangaskhan.
I'm a Miltank, Andy.
Moo Milk. I like it
because I like the curse sets. Yeah, I like the immediate recovery, and I like the curse sets, and then Heal Bell can also be really helpful.
There you go, makes sense.
I dig it.
Nice. There you go.
If I'm running 4 normal moves on Tauros, I can run Curse, Milk Drink, Heal Bell, Return or Body Slam.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's that's all I need, baby. All I need is that one move.
I'm good to go.
I love it.
Cool. All right. Well, now moving into our shower thoughts section. So these for those listening are just those random thoughts that will come to you throughout the day. You're driving, you're at work, you're in the shower, you're at the gym, and because Pokemon is life, these thoughts will just come to you. So these are the deep questions of the Pokemon universe. We have a few for you. These aren't necessarily anything to do with ADV or draft leagues or anything, just kind of general stuff. First one I got for you is, what non-legendary Pokemon do you think should get an in-game event? So we had the notched ear Pichu Pikachu, colored Pichu and Heart Gold, Soul Silver, that kind of thing. And what would that event look like? So what kind of Pokemon would you want to see get an in-game event? And if you can think of how that event would look, what would that look like?
Yeah. So my favorite Pokemon is actually Snorlax.
Okay.
Ooh.
And it kind of has the in-game events in some of the generations already. But I think if they didn't, I haven't played Scarlet Violet, so I actually don't know if it's in the game already. But I feel like it's ripe for its own special launch event if it wasn't in the original Pokédex of Scarlet Violet.
Yeah,
that's cool.
I think it is in there now, but I can't remember. I don't know exactly I think you can get a shiny Munchlax or something right now. But other than that, I agree though. I think Snorlax is just iconic. And yeah, no, I totally agree. And especially I think Gen 6 did a call out to it back when in the game you could get a Snorlax as well. And I'm like, it's always something special when you can go into a region you're not expecting it, and there's just a Snorlax in the road. That's just something that you're just like, this is special. I love this.
Is nice.
Yeah. I'm a normal type guy. Taurus.
I love it, dude. We're picking up on that.
Snorlax is my favorite, yeah.
I love it. I love it. So, speaking, and with that, which Pokemon should get a signature item? So, Cubone and Marowak have the Thick Club. Chansey's got the Lucky Punch. Which Pokemon should get its own personal item?
Are we assuming that the item's going to be good, or is it going to suck like the the Lucky Punch?
You're going to create it. You're going to do whatever you want for it.
Man, I wish I had time to think about this. Another favorite of mine that I think a lot of people love this mon as well, and I think it would be popular if it got its own item, would be Quagsire.
Okay, that's a good one, dude.
So let's make an Eviolite for Quagsire, because it's good, but it's got such bad stats that if it had something that could just push its defenses up a little more, I think that could be something cool.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Make it some sort of Swampert variant, because it's a good typing, But
you could call it the Quag Tag. It's just something like that, dog tags around its deck or something.
I love it, dude. Well, I know some in-game events they'll give the Pokemon a hat, or give Quagsire a T-shirt or something like that.
Yeah,
a T-shirt.
I can see Quagsire in a Hawaiian T-shirt,
drinking
a lemonade, chilling out on the beach.
With the sunglasses. Yeah,
absolutely.
So
that is definitely Quagsire vibes.
I love it so much.
All right, last one we got for you is, let's say you are teleported into the Pokemon world as a professor. What is your research specialty?
I've always been somebody who likes flexible Pokemon that can do a lot of different things. So I'd probably do something where I'm trying to learn all the moves that a Pokemon can learn.
Nice.
Okay.
See and see where I can find their niche in the environment of where can they fit in.
That's cool. I like it.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's awesome. Trying to figure out where they're most optimal, and I like it. That's super cool.
An in-world set builder, you publish a research paper, or you go to a seminar, and you're guys, I've discovered a special build for Flygons. And everyone's whoa, Spinef Flygon.
Gengar
you will not believe it.
Gengar can't
Flygon's actually got a move. Yeah, you will not believe it. Choice Band Gengar is good. Flygon's actually got a move that nobody's ever heard of. It's 150 base power ground move that can hit flying types. It's called 1,000 Arrows.
1,000 Arrows.
Awesome.
I love it.
I actually saw a meme. I think I saw it yesterday, but it was Professor Oak, I'm an expert on Pokemon. I know everything. And then it's except for the other 1,000 Pokemon that I haven't discovered yet.
I know all 151 of them.
Yeah, I only know 10% of my expertise field or something like that. It was something. It phrased it funnier, but it made me laugh. So,
but that's funny.
That's great.
I get the vibe.
Yeah, there you go.
I love it. All right, my friend. Well, that's our last shower thought for you. We'll kind of start closing up here, but we just wanted to say thank you again for joining us. It's been a lot of fun. And really, honestly, it's just been You've opened my eyes to a lot of things. I'm understanding a lot more about the ADV community, and I love it. Before we go, we just wanted to ask: is there anything you'd like to plug to the people? Kind of tease to them, and then is there any nuggets of wisdom that you can give us? Life just in general, or about Pokemon, whatever you'd like. Before we go.
Yes to all of these things. So if you're looking to make YouTube videos on your own and you want some free music, my YouTube channel for the lo-fi is VG Lo-Fi Nights. Feel free to use all of the music on it for free. And
Awesome.
You honestly don't even have to credit me if you don't want to, but feel free to just throw a link in the description for other people to find it. My YouTube channel, I think it's called like Lambo Pokemon or something. I plan to start uploading on it. I hope to do next time Emerald Open comes around. I'd like to be like a commentary guy for Emerald Open. So I think I'm going to start on that and maybe try to do more commentary stuff in general because I think the ADV revival stuff has kind of inspired me. I really like that. And then my piece of wisdom for everybody. So I'm getting my master's in computer science, but I actually work in finance. I'm a CFA, a chartered financial analyst.
Awesome.
So my biggest piece of suggestion to you would be to look up compound interest and understand what it is. Long story short, no matter how young you are, start your IRA now. Put your money in the market, even if it's just like $100 or $200, putting it in the S&P 500. Just put money in and let your money grow over time so that when you're 55 years old and it's time to retire, you're like, well, shoot, I'm glad I did that way back in the day.
Exactly. I can play Pokemon without worrying about my finances.
Exactly. Literally every year counts because when you're getting to the back end of the exponential interest, you're like, well, man, these like at the start, the jumps aren't big, but 40 years down the road, 40 years down the road, the jumps are like from year to year. It's like, oh my gosh, like I made $20,000 this year just because I invested one extra year earlier. I invested when I was 18 rather than 19. Yeah. So
that's so cool. I love that.
Now.
Awesome.
You heard it from an expert, man. I love it. That's good stuff.
Thanks, man. Again, we appreciate you coming on. Congratulations on your win this year in the Emerald Open tournament. For everybody out there, keep an eye out for the Emerald Open. It's coming again soon. And ADV is just ramping up, and we're loving it. And thanks again. This is Logan, Josh, and Lambo signing off. We'll see you guys next time.
See you guys.